Welcome to the Plugged In Podcast by Sweetwater. I'm your host, Mitch Gallagher. Thanks so much for joining us today. This time out, we're sitting down with the Australian-American rock supergroup, the Dead Daisies. The band was formed in 2012 by John Stevens and David Lowy and released their debut album in 2013. Since then, the Dead Daisies have featured an ever-changing lineup of some of rock's biggest names, including drummer John Tempesta, Dizzy Reed, Gilby Clarke, and Richard Fortus from Guns N' Roses, bassist Marco Mendoza from Whitesnake, drummer Dean Castronova from Journey, bassist and vocalist Glenn Hughes, bassist Daryl Jones from the Rolling Stones and Sting, and many more. Over the past 10 years, the band has released numerous studio and live albums and was about to release a best-of album at the time of this interview. The current lineup of the Dead Daisies features an incredible collection of superstar journeyman musicians, including band founder David Lowy and Doug Aldrich, who's best known for his tenures with Ronnie James Dio and Whitesnake on guitar, John Corabi, best known for his time with Motley Crue on lead vocals, Brian Tichy, who's well known for his work with Billy Idol, Foreigner, and Ozzy Osbourne on drums, and the newest member of the Dead Daisies, Michael Devin, who's best known for his 10 years with Whitesnake on bass. It was a real pleasure to sit down with drummer Brian Tichy and guitarist Doug Aldrich to discuss the band, how it's evolved over the years, and how they create music, as well as the upcoming Best Of album release. Both Brian and Doug were in the midst of prepping to leave on tour in support of the new album. In fact, while we were talking, the truck showed up to pick up Brian's drums, so we're grateful for their time. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Plugged In Podcast by Sweetwater. Settle in, and let's get started. Doug, Brian, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you guys here.
Hello. Thanks, Matt.
It's a pleasure to have you both here. Brian, we've met before. We did an interview a few years ago we were talking about earlier, but I think this is the first time we've actually met, Doug.
Hey, nice to meet you, Mitch. And Brian, nice to meet you as well. Yeah, it's nice to have been met by you, Doug.
Now we all know each other. So the Dead Daisies, very interesting band. Aside from, of course, the incredible music, just the story of this idea of like a collective of musicians that has evolved through the actually a decade, right? It's the 10th anniversary of the band. Can you guys fill us in a little bit on the story of the band, how it got started? Brian, I know you came in very early, right?
Yes, I was an early bird to this rock and roll extravaganza. Yeah, I was, and I'll try to be quick about it. It was 2013. I basically did a week of shows with them filling in for Frank Ferrer from Guns N' Roses, who was filling in at the time for another guy that was in there. But so there was already like a lot of that going on. It was this Uproar tour, which was like Jane's Addiction, Alice in Chains co-headline tour. And we played one of the side stages or something. I didn't know anything about the band until I showed up and got in their tour bus and ran through the set and jumped on stage. But a few months prior, I was doing something with Ron Thal Bumblefoot it was in Guns N' Roses, and he was like, "Oh yeah, Richard Fortus, man, we're not busy. He's doing this thing, the Dead Daisies." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he kind of said, "Oh, it's just a guy that started a band from Australia, and he's putting a bunch of them together, and Marco Mendoza and a singer from New Zealand." And he explained the thing. I was like, "Oh, interesting. I didn't know anything about it." And then Dizzy Reed was playing keyboards in that original lineup. He's like, "Hey, Brian, can you fill in, a couple weeks, next week or something for the week?" "Yeah, sure." And I jumped right in. That was it. And then the next couple of years it was really, I guess, what you'd call a collective, because there was no schedule. There was no, we're going to go do, here's the year. There was none of that. It was just more like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing this. Hey, we have a chance to open for this or that. Can you do it? Are you available?" And if I wasn't, which I wasn't in 2014, the following year, we said, "We have this and that." And I was like, "Oh, I already have this and that." So they call another drummer. And that's what was going on. And then I did a bunch more in 2014. In 2015, John Corabi came in. We did that year together. Dizzy and Richard Fortus split at the end of 2015. And Doug came in. So it was Corabi, Doug, me, David Lowy, the founder, who started this whole thing, and Marco Mendoza. And that's the lineup right now. It's there's been a couple twists and turns over the years. And right now it's, David Lowy, the founder, myself, Doug. Corabi's back in the band this year, and Michael Devin, who there's our bud from Whitesnake. Me and Doug have known him for a long time. He's in on bass, and 10th anniversary, and Glenn Hughes was in there, right? Doug, after Corabi left, they did a couple years together. I jumped back in with them last year, And there's been other stuff I feel like I should be mentioning everybody. There's been a lot of great musicians, and one way or another, I think we're all sort of connected. All of us almost, know each other for over the decades from previous bands and experiences, our hangs and jams and whatnot. So that is interesting, that side of it,
Yeah, it is. The family tree is almost like just a circle that everybody's inside of.
Yeah, but I do want to mention, I don't want to babble the whole time, but it's just as far as the Daisies, I mean, I guess they still technically call it a collective. I don't know much about that whole train of thought of like the wheres or whys or whatever of that, but the band is pretty much, we get the lineup together and you're either going to do a tour that year or a record and tour, and it's going to be focused on that band, so it's not going to be like a random band photo from 5 years ago and it's not the right guys that are on the tour or anything like that. I guess that little collective loopholes, as you may want to put it, it's like, hey, if Glenn Hughes was here for a few years, cool, he did some great, he was killer, it was great to play with him, but he's on a path now, he's at a point in his life, he wants to celebrate the Deep Purple stuff and do his own thing, and I think that's great. It's a win-win. He kicked ass in this band and he's out kicking ass, and I think we're all just psyched to know that Glenn's still out there doing it as great as he is and as great as he can still do it, So, it's things change in this band, but I don't know, things change in all bands all the time. Every week you look around, somebody's left the band and joined another one or whatever,
Yeah, sure. But it is, as you're saying, I mean, it is a band at whatever given time. It's a band of players that are doing a tour, doing an album. There's just been this legacy of all these different players, but all of you are also involved in a lot of high-profile projects, and you're all busy with your careers as well, which is another sort of interesting twist to the whole Dead Daisies thing.
Yeah, I mean, they give us a schedule. It's a chunk of months a year, like half the year. This is what we're doing, and the other half, right now, Karabi's on his own tour. Like he's so opening up acoustic for like Tom Kiefer and some package thing. I forget exactly who, but he's out there doing that, and he jumps into this, and John's always working. And Doug, Doug is a professional racquetball teacher now, so he's
nice. So Doug, tell us how you came into the band. It was as Brian mentioned, 2015, 2016, right?
They had contacted me in 2015, Mitch, and asked me about actually Richard Fortas had gotten a motorcycle accident at some point. I'm not sure exactly what happened.
What?
Yeah, he was injured, and I was actually, it's such a small world. I was on tour with Glenn Hughes, and we didn't have a whole bunch of dates. We did a little bit here and there, but we did have some stuff coming up in Japan, and I was kind of a featured part of that thing. So I just wasn't prepared to like just get up and split to go, play with the Dead Daisies. So I said, listen, guys, I'd love to do it. You got to find somebody else. And that was it. And it was done in 2015. I was staying with Glenn doing some touring. And then they called back and said, hey, we got Richard Fortas and Dizzy are going to go back to Guns N' Roses, and we would like to get you to make a record and a tour with the band. And I knew about the Dead Daisies from Brian and Marco and John. I'd seen a video of Midnight Moses, and I thought it was really cool. And they said, we want to make a record and do a tour. And so we started in like January of 2016. We got together in Nashville and just sat down with a bunch of acoustic guitars, all 5 of us, plus Marty Fredrickson, the producer. And we wrote Make Some Noise record and toured a bunch, and just had been going on from there. But that's basically when Richard split, he said, hey, why don't you talk to Doug? And of course, me and Brian and Marco had history with Whitesnake, and I've known John Crowley since we were kids, like seriously back in Philadelphia. In 10th grade, I met John Crowley. He was in a band called Fragile, and I was going to school with this kid who played bass, and this kid, Jerry Best, and they asked Jerry to play bass in their band, and they were playing like the Jersey clubs, Brian, But I met John, and I just thought John was the coolest guy. He's like the lead singer and blah, blah, blah. Years later, we all ended up out in LA, and John joined Motley Crue, and I was doing other stuff. So, but I'd been friends with all these guys, and I met David Lowy, and he goes, look, I'm the rhythm guitar player, you're the lead guitar player. Let's try it out. And it's been a great fit. I really love what we've done, especially the original music, has been really, I've been proud of it, you know?
Yeah, right. So was the first tour that you did with the band the Kiss tour in 2016?
First tour. Yeah, I mean, there was some Kiss dates. There was a bunch of shows on our own. There was a European tour. There was,
I think, Doug, I think that it might have been, but I think we did a cruise.
We just did it. We did the album, and then we had a few weeks off, and then we started touring, and I can't remember who we played with, but I know you're right. We did do some Kiss dates.
That was the first time I saw you guys, was with Kiss here in Fort Wayne. And I just remember the reaction of everyone, just the energy of the band was just fantastic. I mean, you guys really came out and killed it.
Well, the good thing is our sound mix is loud, so it drowned out all the booze.
No, there were none. It was
I'm kidding.
So I'm curious, one of the things that's also, there are lots of interesting things about the band, but as you listen through you've done 5 or 6 studio albums now, there's a sound to each one and sort of a style, and I would attribute that to the different players that are on each of the albums. I'm curious, when you go out to put a tour together, how you approach those different, I guess you'd say, eras of the band, if you will, or different albums representing them. Do you try to recreate that, or do you just try to make all that your own?
Well, when we're touring for an album, and Brian can chime in anytime, we basically are promoting that album. We're definitely featuring that album pretty heavy. So when it's a John Corabi, John's kind of been the main, probably, I don't want to compare anybody or anything like that, but John's been around for a long time with the band and has done a lot of records with the band. And so when we were touring, promoting an album that John did, that's the feature. When Glenn was doing it, we featured Glenn a lot, and then Glenn did his own spin on John's songs. And it'll be the same way with John doing his own spin on Glenn's songs, but it sounds like the Dead Daisies either way, you know, with Brian Tichy and David Lowy. And now, like Brian said, man, we got Michael Devin on bass. It's just, I don't want it to sound like everyone always goes, oh yeah, this is the best lineup. I'm not going to say that, but I will say this, that Brian and Michael have put a lot of years and hours and roads in, miles on the road together. And there's nothing like the two of those guys. It sounds like a steamroller, man. I'm telling you.
That's so killer. So how does it change things for each of you as you're working with different players? So a new bass player has come in. Does that, and I know you've worked together previously as well, but does that change the feel for you? Do you change your vibe to match those players? Or do you guys say, this is what we do, and you come in and match to us?
We've all played in so many different situations. Maybe that would be a thing if you were like Eddie and Alex Van Halen or something, Dimebag and Vinnie Paul, you know, where they're totally used to playing in one situation only with, you know, one thing with one person, you know. But I think we're all pretty good about adapting. We're rock musicians. Jump in and everybody make it sound as good as you can. So, you know, it's not rocket science. It's more feel, you know. So put your feel in there, and hopefully your feel's jiving with the rest of the band. And on the drummer side of things, you just want to make it comfortable for everybody that's playing to you to have fun and do their, you know, play their best. And on the other side of it, you know, the better quality or the higher level of musician you're playing with, the easier it is for all that to jive, you know. And
can I jump in there? Can I jump in, Brian? So basically, Mitch, Brian definitely brings the best out of everybody. He's got such a killer groove, and he's as you know, he played guitar and he sings, and like when he knows my playing, so like he knows how to set up things for me, and him and Michael together has a really amazing sound. Brian could, you know, it was great with Glenn and Brian. It was great with Marco and Brian. Those guys laid down the foundation, and it's really true for those people listening to the podcast. You're only really as good as your drummer. It's really true. Mm-hmm. And Brian definitely, I should say it like this. It's my favorite time when I'm playing with Brian. I know what he's going to do. He knows what I'm going to do. He knows what Michael Devin's going to do. He knows what Marco's going to do. He knows how to make Glenn lock into the pocket. He knows how to make Corabi, you know, excited. And so it's really down to that. But I will say this, for me, myself, I'm a kind of a one-trick pony. I do one thing. I've been doing it my entire life. And it you know, fortunately, I'm here with you guys because of it. But this Dead Daisies thing has always had a thread running through it, which is David Lowy's guitar playing is this aggressive, youthful, honest approach to guitar. He's not trying to be anything other than what he is, which is a straight ahead the foundation of the rhythm of this band.
Right. Well, that gives you a really solid. It gives you a really solid foundation to build off of, to have the drums and the bass and the rhythm guitar. Then for you as a lead guitarist, that's got to really be freeing.
Yeah, I can be out of time, out of tune. Doesn't matter. They just lay it down a nice soft. I'm kidding. I love when me and Brian and all of us, when we lock in on a riff, it's like, that's the best, man. We got a whole new set list. We got this best of album coming out. We got this whole new set list we've been working on, and we rehearsed a little bit. We got rehearsal starting, I guess, in a couple weeks or a week, something like that. So I'm looking forward to playing with Brian and those guys on this set list. It's really good.
Right. So you guys are heading out on tour toward the end of August to Canada, the U.S., Japan, to Europe, going through the end of the year, correct?
Yeah, it's the end of August. U.S., Canada stuff. Like start in the U.S., jump into Canada, go across, come back down, finish up at the Roxy in L.A. I think that's like September 11th, I think. And then there's like a break until the end of October. We go to Japan, play there, and straight into Europe for a few weeks. Then there's like maybe a week off, and we go back to Europe and finish up. That'll be doing the whole 10th anniversary thing, which just, it's cool. You want to address that. You want to, give a set list that encompasses some things that may not have ever been played before, which we are doing. And yeah, so that's it. But it was a nice tie-in to get, Krabi coming back in for the 10th anniversary. And yeah, if you just look at the history of the Dead Daisies, he's kind of in the center of it the most, like it started with John Stevens, who was there in the beginning, the first couple of years, and then Krabi's there for 4 or 5 years. Glenn came in, Krabi's back in, so it's nice when we all get together. When they said Krabi's, back in, and I was like, cool, man, this is gonna be a great lineup. I know how we're gonna sound playing together, like all of us, and the hang. Like that's another thing about this band is it's got to be a fun hang, and it's kind of a no-brainer with all of us because, I literally met, I was reacquainted after meeting him and not talking to him for a year or so to Michael Devin, the bass player, through Krabi. And those two were hanging. I was on the phone with Krabi in like 2001 or something, 2000. And he's like, I had this band and I was looking for a bass player. He's like, oh, my buddy Michael Devin's here, man. He's looking for a thing. And oh, man, I remember talking to you last year, whatever. And so it's like we've all, Doug and I, all the stuff we've done together, we've done, so, recording projects, club jam band things, tours with our club jam band, from Waysake to Dead Daisies, and there's, probably other stuff in there, after all these years, you forget, wait, didn't we do that? Yeah, we did it.
Right, right. That's fantastic. So you mentioned the Best Of album. As we're recording this, I think you're a week or two away from that coming out, correct? And that spans the whole 10 years plus a couple of unreleased tracks, correct?
That's coming out August 18th, from what I understand. That spans 6 studio albums, and that's like Brian said, started with John Stevens, and then for me, the Dead Daisies, I really noticed them on the Midnight Moses video with John Krabi. And that was when John started, and it was John, Marco, Brian, and Fortis and Dizzy. And David, and I thought I didn't know about them before that, but I thought, oh man, what a great freaking idea, that song. Because here's the deal: back when we were kids, there was a band in New Jersey called the Dead End Kids, and when we were kids, we'd go see these guys play, and it was like these guys, they were all black hair and just low Les Pauls, and they played this song by Alex Harvey Band, and they would do these moves to the Midnight Moses, and that was their signature track. And this was back in late 70s, early 80s. Now here's John Krabi and Brian Tichy, Marco and David, and they're doing this song Midnight Moses. I'm like, Krabi, finally he pulled it. Nobody had touched that song, and Krabi, I guess he was involved in suggesting it. Maybe Brian can.
Oh, no, totally. It was all Krabi, and I didn't know that story. That's a really cool story, but yeah, he brought it in, and
yeah, it was.
As soon as I heard the riff, I was like, "Oh, this is cool. This is a big, huge, big, powerful driving riff song, kind of a kooky lyrics and just rowdy." And we tracked it soon after that. It's like Robbie suggested it. I think we might have put it on that day, started working on it, then we recorded it. So it's been like a staple. One of the songs, it's funny that it goes back to another band you guys were seeing as kids, and Karavi was probably like, someday I'm going to bust that song out and cover it.
Do you know that song, that's really, aside from the original version, that Dead Daisies version with Karavi made it his own. That's like his song, you know what I mean? And it was so much so that, you know, Glenn kind of didn't really want to go there. Like he was like, that's kind of Karavi's ground right there. So he was, we did it a few times with Glenn, but not all the time, I guess. But now, like, since John's back, it's definitely going to be in the set for sure.
Right. Well, that's very cool. So the two unreleased songs that are on the best of, are those new songs? Or are they songs that were in the archives, or where did those come from?
Those are new songs that Brian and I recorded with Glenn and David back in 21 when we did the Radiance album. And we had a bunch of songs in the pipeline, and we just, actually those songs were started, me and Glenn started demoing those up in 2020. We were going to do a concept album, and those were kind of like really part of that concept album. So when we decided to just go ahead and do a rock record, which is Radiance. And so these are these two tracks that are both super deep tracks lyrically and melodically. They're really cool. Let Us Set You Free is a beautiful, you know, song to live by. And The Healer is probably the darkest track that we've recorded, I think, one of them anyway. So they're both going to be fun for people to check out. And that's from the Glenn era. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, that's going to be a cool bonus on there. That's fantastic. So with all the experience that everyone in the band has, tell us about the recording process. Well, actually, the writing and the recording process. How do you guys go about putting a song together?
When I joined the band, one of the things I really loved about it was that everybody was involved in songs together. Like we all had a stake in every idea. And the first day, me and Brian, we took a riff that David Lowy had, and we started working on what would be A Long Way to Go. And then the producer said, Marty Finnegan said to all of us, hey, let's double up and let's everybody go away, and you guys, everybody write a song or two. And me and Brian worked on a couple of songs in that first day. And I think it was Karabi and Marco, and it was David and Marty, and we all got ideas together. We sat down and worked on them together. It was like a real band vibe. I really loved it. It changed when Glenn came in, because Glenn had a few ideas he wanted to bring in, and then I started to write specifically for Glenn, and it became a little bit of a different situation. But I really loved the original way that the Daisies would write. Like, so that way everybody was involved in everybody else's idea. Brian had a few songs, Marco had a few songs. We were all invested in that, you know, and that's a good way. I think it's old school.
Right, definitely. Is the recording process the same? Are you recording live with everyone in the room, or how do you approach that?
Last year we recorded Doug, Glenn, myself, and David Lowy. Yeah, we were all in the room together, tracking with the goal to get a solid drum take, you know, or a few takes. And these days, you know, as soon as I say these days, it's all different than it used to be, because like the sky's the limit with like editing and options and studio trickery. But we really tried to go in and just play live and get a good take. And Ben Gross, the producer, as far as on my side of things, I liked how he went about it. We would all get a feel. So that I'd have a demo with the drum machine or whatever of stuff that Glenn and Doug did, or Doug and David Lowy, or whatever the combination was. I came in with my little, you know, with my chart and my notes, and then I just asked Glenn and Doug, what do you want? You know, do you want me to drive it like this, put a thing here or there, and talk with those guys, jam, get a feel. Ben would chime in, and I just listen to everybody. I'm like, you know, when you're a drummer who you didn't write the song, the most important thing is somebody has a vision in that room, or a few people have vision. There was somebody who had to program a drum machine to get it to a place where it's a demo, right? So there's a vibe going on. So the best thing you can do is to ask them, what do you hear? Listen to them, try it all. I don't really want to jump in there going, I think this is best, or I should do this. It's like, if it was my song, I might have more of a strong idea about that. But with those guys, I just wait for Glenn to start singing and go, yeah, that's cool, or I like that, or Doug would say, do this. And that's it. We just work together. You know, it's rock and roll. And it, like, you know, you don't want to make it a surgery or anything like that. And Dead Daisies is pretty much straight ahead rock and roll. So, you know, you could also be like, I want to get a cool fill in this song, or I want to get a little show off it, but something or other. But most of the time it's like, whatever. If there's a place for that, it'll happen. If not, man, just do what it takes to make it sound as good as it can for the guys who wrote the song. You know, and we do that. And then, but we would play live, and we would all play live together, recorded. You know, I think we were all recorded live. And if there's some magic in there, you can keep it all. But if, you know, Doug wants to get a different tone or really dial in some details of the parts, or Glenn, you know, and Glenn, I believe he was singing too. Doug, was he singing in the room with the drums?
He was singing just a little bit as a guide, you know, just a guide vocal, but he did keep some of it. I think he kept a lot of bass parts from this session with the drums, because, you know, and that's, again, Mitch, that's a great thing about the Daisies, is that we really do it old school way. We're together all in the same room. We don't have to be, like Brian said, technology is, we could be in different states or countries, but we do it all together at the same time. And it definitely helps the feel, helps lock in. When Brian starts to lay down that fat groove, we're all kind of fitting in there in our way. And once the producer goes, yeah, that's the one, then maybe Brian would go in and he might change a thing here or there. But the bottom line is we get the majority of the track in one go. And that's it. It's like old school. We'd use it, Pro Tools, like a tape machine.
This wasn't like, because then there's the whole pre-production thing where you go, before we go in the studio, let's all get together and work on the songs as a band. We didn't do that. And I'm fine either way. Sometimes that's cool, but sometimes you may end up digging into something a little bit too much. You come in with a demo, and there's an excitement for the guys who wrote it to the drum machine to now hear it with real drums. So it's like, oh wait, that's the groove, or that's, you know, and you start dissecting it that way, and things are a little more immediate. And then you go, cool, let's try it and see how it goes. And you have this spontaneity happening, rather than pre-production, take the rehearsal tape home, analyze it. Oh, let's cut this in half. Let's do that. You know, let's pick it up 1 BPM, blah, blah. You can go on for forever doing that stuff. So just treat it like like old school rock band. Get in the studio, get a vibe, hit it.
Definitely, you know, when you got a basic, like I know now when we're working on stuff, I don't try too hard to do anything drum wise, because I know that when Brian gets his hands on it, he's going to make it into like a real song. And that's the thing that happens, is that you get a demo and then you put it in with Brian, and then you start adding the parts to it. It becomes a real song. But there was also songs like that one song, Brian, we did Shine On. We kind of jammed that in the studio. It was really like not really a demo. It was just like an outline. And then same thing with that track that David Lowy brought in with Born to Fly, that with a whole drum intro, that was all not there prior. So songs come to like become more song-like when you get in the studio with the real drums. Drum machine's just a tool to get there.
Right. That's got to be fun. So what about then when you take those songs on the stage, do you feel obligated to recreate what you did in the studio? Are you more improvising? How do you approach that?
From my end, I just try to use that as the main inspiration and stick to the majority of it. We end up a lot of times, you know, making small adjustments to the arrangement in terms of we might extend the intro or an outro or whatever. That's pretty much it. And we kind of use the song as an inspiration and pretty much stick to it, at least from my end.
I like parts that make sense, like this kick pattern, but I like parts that make sense, but also there's flexibility in there. So if you do, and that's another thing that's really cool about this band is nobody's ever told me what to do on drums. And I'm always pretty open, like, you know, especially in the songwriting department, if somebody hears something they want, you know, on drums, I want to make you happy. But live, there is an element of taking chances in this band. And I think that's really the spirit of rock and roll, is that I could go down a list of bands, and most of the biggest bands, and probably at the top of the top is the Stones. Think of how many different versions of huge songs that we all know that I mean, I've heard versions of, you know, Satisfaction where it's ridiculously fast and Mick's singing nothing like the original, and the original's huge. It's like stupid iconic, you know, but that's the Stones, and they have this, it really is a magic about them where they can get up and play night after night and kind of don't really, you know, they're well rehearsed, but there's this feel about them, and there's this side of them where it really is just rock and roll, where things can happen at any point in time. And then there's a band like Rush where it's pretty much going to be like, you're going to get that song, with those parts, just like the record, which is amazing too. I love both sides of it, but what you see in most rock and roll bands like the Who or Hendrix, all these bands take chances constantly. And, to take those chances, you have to know this, you have to know your parts first. You have to be well rehearsed. You have to know this is what it is. And if I'm going to jump out here or there, I can do it because I'm feeling this tonight, Another big concern, I think, is always trying to nail groove and tempo live because it's real easy. It's another thing, man. These are things that I didn't think it'd make a big deal to talk about, but we're one of the few bands out there, seriously, that not only are there no background vocals, right? Okay, they're on tape. Like there's no computers, there's no background vocals. There's not even a click track on stage. Like I've done play to a click in the in-ears. We have in-ears, which I prefer no in-ears. I just prefer the room and the ambience of the room and the vibe of the audience. But we're not even playing to a click track. Like I don't even refer to one. And I've done that where I've referred to a little light on like a drum machine, like a little beeping light. And I've done that. So I'm not playing to a click, but it's a reference. So I'm definitely in the ballpark. We're not even doing that. We're just literally going by feel, which is like, whoa, you guys are like, there's no net, quote the Van Halen live without a net. But I feel like that's, wow, I'm making some kind of statement, but really that shouldn't be that impressive. That's normal. The drummer's supposed to find the groove, the band locks in. That's why they hired him as the drummer, because he has something that's making the band sound a certain way, whether it's Roger Taylor from Queen or Bonham or Charlie Watts or Moon. You're not going to put Moon in the Stones and have it sound like Stones. And you're not going to put Charlie Watts in the Who and the way they play and groove and the way they fill up space or lay back or whatever. It's like, now that's a big deal. That wasn't a big deal. That was normal, and now it's like, whoa, we're proud to say we're actually musicians that like can look at each other and go 1, 2, 3, 4 and play a song. Right. It's really weird to think that that's a thing now. Like that's what we did in our basements and garages in high school. Right. And then you do that a real lot. And then you do that in front of audiences in little bars and clubs. And you get your experiences and you record your rehearsals and you record your live shows and you listen to what sucked and what was good and you improve. And that's the excitement. But even saying that, there is a talent to be able to nail something every night on the grid. I've done all that, nail every part, play to the tapes. I've had stuff in a band where if the Pro Tools goes down, my drum tech literally has flashcards. He fixes it. We're in verse 2. He'll throw up a flashcard, chorus 2, and I nod to him. That means right when chorus 2 hits, bam, he hits playback on the Pro Tools, and I'm back in. Like so there is like a thing to that, but that's not as fun. It's just like humans together, musicians together, playing off a feel, and you feel something. Like as opposed to this is the feel. This is what it's going to be tonight. How about we should be in the ballpark. We should have fun with it. And if somebody's a little extra, come on, man. I have killer versions of Van Halen songs where it's maybe a smidge faster. There's Zeppelin playing slower songs live. Like the studio version was this. Then you go see Dazed and Confused or No Quarter live. That stuff's way slower, but it's working because they feel it,
So given that and given the level you guys are at, I think people sometimes wonder how much rehearsal do you do before you go out on a tour? How much time are you spending?
We do about a week or so, something like that, right, Brian? And it's like, time to go through the songs and get used to it, but there's no replacing being on stage. You can rehearse all you want for a month, but it's not going to be the same as when you go on stage. So you got to do your homework and be ready to go, and then get in rehearsal, fine tune it a little bit, but then you get on stage and it sorts itself out.
And there's the energy on stage. Like it doesn't matter if it's a small club or a big festival or whatever. It's this thing you can't get anywhere else. You just can't. You can't put that type of energy in anywhere. And I've always felt that since I was a kid. When it's time to play live, it's like, okay, I want to play better than I've ever played in my life. I want, that's the goal. The first thing's for me. Like, and then whoever my boss is, whether the other bands I've been in, well, that's the guy. That's the guy that without him, none of us are here. Whether it's Billy Idol or David Coverdale or whatever. So I want him to be happy, and if he's happy, then that's the meat of it right there. And then I want the band, to be happy, and I want the audience to be psyched. But I know if the singer is happy, he's going to deliver even better, and that's going to be a better show for the audience. So it all happens at once, but you can't get that amount of that kind of energy anywhere else that I know of as a musician or as a drummer. And I like all different aspects of drumming and playing, but and I'm probably guilty of hitting too hard live and stuff like that. But I'm just like, part of me is like, now that I'm getting older, I'm like, I want to show that I can still do that because I can. Like, and I'm sure Doug's like, I don't care what year it is, man. I'm Doug Aldrich. I'm going to throw down the same as I did in the 80s, which he does. And I think it's just because nobody told us to do this. We just said we have to do this. This is what we do. And I knew nothing else that I wanted to do. When you put that on a stage in front of people, that you're just saying, here's what I've been doing my whole life, and here's where I am right now. So that's self-respect. You just want to give out of respect to all the years you're walking around saying, I'm a drummer, I put a lot of time in, or I'm a musician and put time in. You want to get on stage and throw down. Hopefully it translates. But also the energy. Yeah, man, just breathing heavy. Like, okay, I probably don't need, I could cut mine in 50% and I'd still be playing a rock show. But it feels so wrong to me. Like, and I'm lucky that I've been in bands where, like, most of the stuff I've done, I really do get to throw down with more energy than is necessary, which I'm really happy about. I've done stuff where I don't have to. I've played in situations where I do not want to do that. Like, don't be that drummer. And I respect the music, and I think, play to make the band and the music sound how it's supposed to sound. And that's a challenge in itself, is to lay back and be in control. But I do like that the most, And 10 years from now, if I'm out there, I will be out there touring. I'm going to say the same thing, and I'm going to do it the same way. And that's a decade. So I don't, unless something really bad happens to me health-wise, I can't mentally see not doing what I do now, which is, if you saw me play in the early 90s, it's the same as it is now. You know what I mean? It's as far as the delivery and the attitude,
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's what it should be about. It's rock and roll. It should be fun.
Yeah.
So I have a couple more questions for you guys, and I'll let you go here, because I know Brian, they're coming to get your drums, and you guys got things going on. But the first thing I want to bring up is I just got a press release about the band and Blackstar Amps, and of course we're huge fans of Blackstar here at Sweetwater. And so Doug, I wanted to ask you about that, about the whole Blackstar thing.
First of all, Blackstar has been around since 2004, I guess, somewhere around there. 2000, maybe it's a little earlier. But around that time, I remember when Blackstar started, and a couple guys from Marshall went to Blackstar, and they were like, hey, we're doing this thing. And I had been with Marshall since for a long time, and had, a long relationship with Jim and the guys, various people. And I was never really looking for anything more. But this year, we had an opportunity we were wanting to do something with the company, somebody new, something that had something new to bring to the party. And I said, what about Blackstar? They make great stuff. They're really killer sounding amps. Maybe we could talk to them. And management talked to them and put together a situation where we were going to, starting with me, but then going through David and Michael, we were going to do the whole backline with Blackstar. But we wanted to do a little test first, we wanted to go through and make sure everybody was happy. And I got to play through their whole range of amps. And I got to say, man, I was blown away. It's really, really good, better than I had remembered. I mean, I knew they were great amps, but they got like the HT Stage 100 Mark II. That's the amp that I'm playing through right now. That is just insane. It's got a really big vintage, but heavy tone to it, and then there's some parameters that you can adjust with your foot. David's using the same amp as well on his side. Michael's got the bass rig. I believe it's 700 bass rig, but Blackstar is just, their R&D is insane, and they're doing all kinds of cutting edge things with the Amp 2 stuff, the pedal board amps, all the way till the HT Stage 100. It's incredible stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, like I said, we love their amps here, and we're huge fans at Sweetwater as well. So that's very cool.
Years ago in the Daisies, a rep gave everybody a little Fly3 practice amp, and it sat in my house, and it was like, a couple of years ago, I saw Phil X was playing one in his hotel room, and I was like, oh yeah. I was like, I have that. And I put the batteries in. I was like, it thing sounds great. And now it's guaranteed in my suitcase, like 6 AA's for a little Fly3, and you can just rock in your hotel, like take it anywhere. It's light. It sounds great. Yeah, man, that was my first experience. And then now Doug's got the the 18-wheeler version of that, you know.
Well, actually, you know what, Brian? I had that Fly Amp too, and you know what I first really was. It was one of the most useful things, and this is what I'm talking about. The R&B is that I would plug in my iPhone. Brian was doing the Bonzo Bash, where it was like at the NAMM show, a lot of different drummers coming in and playing, you know, famous drummers coming in and playing John Bonham songs, Zeppelin songs. And Brian organized it. He was the originator of it and the founder of this Bonzo Bash. And he one year he said, "Hey, my other guy, the guy that you want me to play the guitar is busy. Do you want to come in and do it?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I would love that, man." Going through and learning, you know, all these Jimmy Page parts and playing with all these great drummers and a great rhythm section and Chaz West on vocals. I started getting my feet wet and I'm like, this is great. But I was like, oh my God, this is a lot of stuff to learn. And I'd have to, you know, practice. And there's all this different solos and stuff that I had never done before. But the Fly3 amp has an input so you can plug your phone into it and you can play along with headphones on and really play along with a great guitar sound in your headphones from the Fly3 and play along with your phone that's got the MP3 of the track. So I was using that to practice right up into the gig, because there was all this Zeppelin material that I really had to try and do my best on. And it was a great tool. So back then, that's where I started using it.
I remember seeing some of those shows. Those were fantastic.
Oh, cool. Thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's a unique little thing. It's just funny. I don't talk about it much or think about it. It was just somehow something came up, but talking to my daughter yesterday and came up, but basically, yeah, like I thought about it, there's like in 5 or 6 other places in the world, people have done the Bonzo Bash theme, like Seattle, Kansas City, Montreal, Costa Rica, Hawaii. And like a couple of them actually tried to call the Bonzo Bash. I'm like, dude, just come up with your own name. You know what I mean? Like, dude, I don't do the concept. Put a cool Bonham kid up there, have a bunch of drummers play their favorite Zeppelin song of the band. Like, that's fun. They celebrate John Bonham and Zeppelin.
You had to kind of tell them, like, look, guys, you got to do your own thing. This is the Bonzo Bash.
Well, and I could say it like, hey, man, I don't want you getting credit for something that you didn't come up with. But it's like, it's the opposite. I said, like, take credit for your thing. If it's Bonzo Bash, that could be my thing. So put your own name on it. Bonzo Celebration Night, Bonzo Evening, whatever they call it. You know, call your own thing so you get the cred. You know, and if it sucks, I don't have to anybody thinking it was mine. You know.
Well, I have the same question that I want to ask both of you before we wrap things up, and it's a question I always ask when I talk to musicians at a very high level like yourselves, and that is, I mean, you guys are uniquely suited to this because of your long careers. What makes a great artist? Let's start with Brian. You want to start first?
For me, a great artist, to me, is a killer songwriter. I mean, an artist, Elvis, an artist, and he didn't write the songs. You know, McCartney is an artist, Elton John. To me, that's the most massive thing as far as music and art is a songwriter. And then not just a songwriter, because then there's the songwriters that, you know, give their songs to huge other artists that didn't write them. But to me, you know, watching a Freddie Mercury do a Bohemian Rhapsody or watching an Elton do whatever, McCartney sitting there playing Let It Be or Maybe I'm Amazed, that's just, and just owning it and having a style. Sound like as soon as you hear it, you go, that's him, that's Elton, that's McCartney. You know, I think that's the top.
Right. Yeah.
You know, Angus Young. I don't care if Angus Young can do a sweep pick. What do you call a sweep arpeggio? Like, I don't care if Yngwie Malmsteen. I mean, Angus Young can do whatever extra technical stuff on guitar is going on, or play in a jazz. I don't care. I want Angus Young to be Angus Young. And when he goes on stage, he's Angus Young, and that's what I get, because it's an amazingly powerful, magical thing that happens with that guy, or you know, or Pete Townsend, whatever. You know, they play how they play, and they sound how they sound. Or Jim Morrison. It goes on and on. Like, I want to hear him do his thing and only his thing. And I think that's the most special. It's fun to be able to jump into a situation here and there and be able to, oh, you want me to be more funky? You want me to be heavier? You want me to be a little this and that? That's a lot of fun. Doug and I have a great experience with playing with lots of, you know, big name bands doing that, being able to be the guy to jump into a situation. But I just think there's nothing cooler than being the guy that wrote a song and you're known for that. I'm talking My Sharona, Doug Feger, one song, man. If that's all you got, you wrote My Sharona and you're the knack. That's just, I mean, that's a stupid, massive song that, you know, that came out. But then you got like Mick Jones and Lou Gramm or whatever. The combination, you know, I think those are my favorite artists, you know, beyond drummers, being a drummer mainly, you know, that's what it is to me. That's that elusive thing. How do you know when you have a hit song? How do you know when a song is going to become something that gets to the next level? We all write music going, this is cool. You know, like Doug's written records with you know, Coverdale, Whitesnake records. I've written with Billy Idol, and you're writing and you're excited and things are happening and but man, what is that thing that gets it? I don't know. I don't know if anybody really knows. I guess if you've written I Want to Know What Love Is or something, you kind of know it's going to be a stupid hit. You know, I guess you know it's going to be massive. But did Billy Joel know Piano Man was going to be like just massive or not? You know, I don't know.
He probably had a little clue that it was going to be good.
I think he was one of the best songwriters ever. You know, the dude who wrote White Christmas, whoever that is, or all those Christmas songs, which are just like perfectly written songs. You know, that's just, yeah. I guess songwriting, I think, is the top. Songwriting, but being the guy who wrote it, who can perform it, that's the top.
That's it, right? Doug, what do you think?
I think a great artist, you know, is somebody that's pushing the envelope and doing something different, and that's all encompassing in terms of when you get your own style. Like he mentioned, like for me, when I hear Gary Moore, I know it's Gary Moore. When I hear Jeff Beck, I know it's Jeff Beck. I hear John Bonham. Generally, he's got his own sound, you know, and they push the envelope individually. Hendrix, Van Halen, all these guys, Randy Rhoads, Stevie Ray Vaughan, they push the envelope beyond where they found it, you know, and got their own sound, you know, and art is also, you know, just creating something out of nothing. And that's the most rewarding thing that you could be as a songwriter or a painter or a sculptor or a whatever, is to create something out of nothing and have it be original. And there's no feeling like that. I mean, I remember, like Brian was saying, working with Coverdale, I've produced and co-written and released 30 songs with Whitesnake that I co-wrote. And it was a great run. I'm super proud of it. The most amazing part of it is when you're sitting there together, maybe me and Brian, maybe sitting there together and we're coming up with something and you finish it off and you go, oh my God, this is like pretty cool. It's like, I don't know if it's good or not, but it sounds good. It makes me feel good. And nobody else in the world knows about it. It's like, we just did it just now and it's special and it makes me feel good. There's a huge value to that. So to be recognized worldwide as an amazing artist, you know, you got to push the envelope, but I mean, you can gain the high of creating something in your bedroom. It doesn't matter. You can write a song or come up with a riff or do a piece of pottery or whatever it is. And it's like original. And that's what's special, you know? So
I think Doug, I wanted to add in like what you said, those things, those moments where nobody knows it's there and you're excited. Those are the things that keep you going. Like those are it's a feeling. You're like, I got here. Whoa, I need to do this again. I want to get here again. I want another riff. I want another song idea. I want to work with somebody and we both agree this is exciting and we've done that. And you just keep going. And then you're going, okay, this is life. How far can I go? How far can there's no limit and there's no book I'm going to read that's going to explain to me how to help. You know, okay, maybe I could read Hit Songwriting 101, like this guy's used these chords and stuff, but I'm saying the whole thing, you know, it keeps you
like when you were
going.
When you were doing the stuff with Billy and same with me with Dio, there was a couple songs I wrote with Ronnie, and to hear him sing my riff over my riff with you're doing with Billy, you were playing guitar and working on songs, and then you get Billy Idol singing on it, and it's like, this is like you're making this happen, and it feels great.
Yeah, because these guys happen to be singers that have like worked constantly at MTV, so it wasn't just hit songs on the radio. They were MTV generation, hardcore. Coverdale, Billy Idol. Everybody knows the look and sound of them. You know, as soon as you hear like a Whitesnake big hit single, it's like Coverdale or Billy Idol. He's got the image. It's like these are iconic guys. So to get to work with them is great. But also when you have a song idea and you're a kid writing a riff, you go, oh, this is kind of Zeppelin or this is kind of Van Halen or whatever, or this is kind of Whitesnake or this is kind of like one of the first songs I wrote was I was just messing around when I still had an 8-track cassette. And I wrote this little idea, and it was kind of straight ahead Judas Priest meets Billy Idolish or whatever. And ultimately, it led into the Billy and I. And the next year or two, Billy and I started writing together. And when he heard that song, and I sang on it, and I wrote these really trite lyrics, and I was just trying to get a little demo done. And he heard it. And he was like, "Oh, I like the chorus. It's cool. Let's work on it." As soon as he started singing it, now it was like a real rock song. With me, it was just a silly demo. He took most of the lyrics and he sang them, and it was, wow. I believe what Billy Idol's saying to me now. My demo was like, oh, guys, it's just a joke. I mean, it's just rhymes. That's all. He's singing it, and I'm like, this is rock and roll. That's what certain guys can do. Give a lyric to David Coverdale, or give him a riff and have him start singing over it, and that's exciting. It's a lot of fun, especially when you grew up listening to these guys.
That same thing happened to me, Brian. It was like I was in my studio and I had this riff for a song called "Good to Be Bad," and it was just like, wow, 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 wow. Tell me, baby, it's on your mind, bah, bah, bah. So I was just joking around. I said to David, he goes, "What are you thinking?" I'm like, "This is kind of what I was hearing," and he started singing it. "Tell me, baby, what's on your mind," and then he went from there. And when he started singing, it was like goosebumps on my neck. Like I was just trying to find some inspiration for him, and then he made it into like Whitesnake, but art is it's a very important thing, because a lot of the great artists that we grew up on are starting to retire and time's getting on, and it's like we need kids to and this is where Sweetwater gets into it, supporting the young kids playing music and then the newer generation playing rock and roll and stuff. It's so cool that Sweetwater is doing that, and I love it. I got little kids, and I music is super important. It's so important. So keep it going.
Yeah, you guys will appreciate this. We have a music academy here at Sweetwater, and something like 1,100 students per week come in and take lessons on guitar, bass, drums, vocals, keyboards, and the whole thing. And we do rock camps all summer where the kids form bands and they work with a coach and they do cover songs and they write a song. They get to go in the studio and record. They get to go on the big stage out in our pavilion and play a concert and do the whole thing. And so we agree 100% with you. It's it's got to start young.
That's killer.
Thank you guys for doing that. And it's going to only get bigger and bigger, because you can play a video game all you want, but there's nothing like hitting a freaking A chord. Wow, right. or like hitting the drums like Brian does. Right. Nothing like that.
Fantastic. Well, guys, thanks so much for your time today. It's been a real pleasure to get to sit down and talk with you. The tour is kicking off at the end of August and continuing through the end of the year. You got the Best Of album coming out the 18th. And man, I just really appreciate the time to sit down and chat with you.
Thank you. Hey, Mitch, thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you later.
All the best.
I hope that you enjoyed this installment of the Plugged In podcast by Sweetwater. Special thanks to Brian Tichy and Doug Aldrich for taking time out of prepping to tour to sit down with us for this interview. Be sure to give a listen to the new Dead Daisies Best Of album, and I highly recommend exploring the band's entire catalog to hear a wide range of fantastic rock music. If you have a chance, check them out on tour near you, because they put on a great show. For the interview portion of this episode, I used a Lewitt LCT 540S condenser mic with a Stedman Pro Screen pop filter routed into a Universal Audio Apollo X4. I monitored using my trusty Focal Clear MG phones. I recorded the in and out segments in my home studio using a Shure SM7B mic to a Royer Labs D-Booster and into a Universal Audio Apollo Twin using all Mogami cables and monitoring on Neumann NDH20 headphones. Thanks for joining us for Plugged In by Sweetwater. Remember to start at sweetwater.com for all your music instrument and pro audio needs. I'm Mitch Gallagher, and this has been the Plugged In podcast by Sweetwater.